Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Mike Yost. I'm the president of MESA International. I want to welcome you to our 2018 annual member meeting. In just a few minutes, I will walk us through how the event will work today, how you can participate, and what you will be hearing. And before we do that, I just wanted to take a quick second here to recognize our sponsors. Our sponsors underwrite the efforts of MESA on a global scale, and we couldn't do what we do without them. There are obviously familiar names that have been with us for some time, as you can see on the screen. I just wanted to highlight that beyond our traditional sponsors such as ATS and Maverick and Rockwell and Savagent as Platinum Keystone sponsors, we have Cisco, who has joined us as a new Platinum Keystone sponsor. And Parsec and Siemens have rejoined us as in the ranks of Platinum Keystone sponsors. Also, Sepasoft has joined us since the last time we had an annual meeting, and they, along with all of our other Keystone sponsors, again, underwrite what we do, and we thank them for their time, their leadership, their resources, and their financial support. You'll also hear us talk about our addition to the sponsorship ranks of new sponsorship options, and you'll see we have two sponsors of our Smart Manufacturing Working Group, IQMS and Dassault Systems, and we'll talk more about those options of supporting specific regional activities or specific activities of dedicated working groups later in the discussions, but just wanted to highlight those sponsors and the value that they bring to us and to our community overall. So next slide, please. So from your perspective, as far as participating today, you should see a control panel on your screen, and you can use the orange button, the orange arrow at the top to open and close that panel to save screen space. You'll also see that there's a questions box, and we encourage you to submit questions in that box. Depending on how much time we have today, we will address questions at the end in a question and answer session. Any questions that we don't get to today for whatever reason, we will respond directly by email to anybody that's asking questions. We do have one of our presenters who will not be able to be with us for the Q&A session, so if there's anything specific there, we can get a response, and again, respond by email. And then lastly, we are recording this session right now, and within the next week, we will post the recording along with the slides from today onto the MESA Resource Library. So next slide, please. So again, as I mentioned, my name is Mike Yost. I'm the president of the organization. I've been a member of MESA directly for almost 20 years, since 1999. I've been operating in this capacity as the president for the past 8 years, and have been active pretty much on all levels throughout the organization. So if we can go to the next slide, I will just give a quick overview of what we're going to be accomplishing here. Again, we have an hour slotted for this time. And what we're going to do is I will take just a minute to talk about how I see things from a MESA perspective, and sort of what is happening from an operational side. Then we'll be joined by our board leaders and our treasurer to talk specifically about their vision of what is happening in the areas that they are a part of. So we will be joined with our board of directors chair from the International Board, the Americas Board, our Asia Pacific Board, as well as our EMEA Board. And also we will have our a financial review from our treasurer, and then again followed by a question and answer session. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. It is quite possible that we have some folks that are not members that are joining us, and welcome to you if you are here. And even for those of you that have been around for a while, I want to take just a second to talk about the organization, what we're up to, what our mission's all about, and how we go about what we do. And when we talk about living at the intersection of manufacturing and IT and focusing on the business value that exists there. MESA's been around for almost 27 years now, and our focus is to build bridges of understanding from the plant to the enterprise. The charter that we've had, our focus on helping manufacturers understand how and why to deploy modern information technologies in their operations has not changed. But obviously, over the course of almost 30 years, the technologies have changed. And I think that's reflected by the conversation we had a few minutes ago as far as the new sponsors that we have joining. There are certainly different names on our sponsorship ranks as well as in our membership ranks, and folks that are contributing on a lot of different levels that are not and have not been with us in years past. So one anecdote that I like to reference once in a while is that back in 2008, a decade ago, MESA rejected the theme of convergence as the conference theme for our annual conference. The OT, IT, Operations Technology and Information Technology Convergence. We rejected that as a conference theme because we had done it for so long and done it so many times that we felt that our audience was tired of the conversation and ready to move on to bigger things. The fact is today that we are still having those conversations about convergence, and I think it's largely because we have a new audience, or new audiences that are paying attention to what we do and the value that we can bring. Next slide, please. So speaking of the new audience, this is my last slide, this is just to demonstrate the reach and impact that of conversations that we're being called into, and that MESA is being trusted to bring insights around. We contributed to the 2018 World Manufacturing Forum report, which made recommendations on the future of manufacturing. We are part of and have supported the Wunderbar Together US-Germany collaboration on what they're calling 2019 as the year of friendship and collaboration between the US and Germany in understanding smart manufacturing, as it's more commonly called in the US, and Industry 4.0 in Germany. So we have connections there where we are working to drive commonality and understanding. Similarly, you may be familiar with the illustration on the right, which comes from the Singapore Smart Industry Readiness Index. We've had conversations and continue to talk with the Economic Development Board of Singapore about how we can leverage their efforts and our own efforts and work together to drive more common understanding, less fragmented discussions, and move all of us forward together more easily. Then we're also working with economic development offices around the country, such as in southeastern Wisconsin with the Milwaukee 7, and with Manufacturing USA, which is the umbrella organization that has 15 public-private national institutes in the U.S. Around manufacturing, and 2 specifically that we're working with, the Digital Manufacturing Institute, DMDII, in Chicago, Illinois, and the Smart Manufacturing Institute out of Los Angeles. So all of these bodies are working toward a lot of the same goals where MESA works, and they see value in partnering with us and understanding how we can bring value to their efforts and how we can work together in a collaborative way to drive industry forward together, as opposed to isolated or on our own. So that's why I say now, given the fact that I've been in MESA for 20 years, I've been in this spot for 8 years as the operational leader, I can say that this is a much different set of conversations that we're having today than we've had in the past, and it's very exciting times for us, and so I am excited where we are and where we are going. So I'm going to now pass it over and ask our international board chairman, Eric Nistad from Kellogg's, if he will take over and talk about his perspective from his role as the chairman of the international board. Eric?
Yep. Hey, Mike and everybody. Great. Thanks, Mike, for the introduction. I want to say, first of all, on behalf of the International Board of Directors, I want to welcome everyone who's been able to join us on I'm really pleased to be here today. And as I look back at how MESA has evolved over the last few years, Mike talked about being involved for 20 years. I've been engaged with MESA for about 10 now. Played different roles, always coming from a manufacturer perspective. I've worked prior to my role here now at Kellogg's. I've worked at Nabisco, Kraft Foods, Mondelez International for 25 years. But basically for about 10 years involved in MESA, because I see it as a great organization that gives me an independent voice, or has an independent voice of what's really going on in the manufacturing community. And I'd like to leverage that in my business operations as I've involved with the organization year over year. Ted, I'm extremely pleased to be here, and especially as I look back at how MESA has evolved over the last few years. It's just, for those of you that don't know, we just launched about a year ago. We launched our third regional board in Asia Pacific. So the Asia Pacific board has now joined our North American and our European, Middle East, and Africa boards. So we truly have a global footprint as the organization, and I'm honored as the leader of the international board. I tend to lead a team globally that represents all of those boards, but also basically all of those boards, but industry on a whole globally. And in the past year, I've gotten the opportunity to spend a lot of time talking with companies, speaking at a bunch of different conferences and industry events, and engaging with a lot of companies, and great opportunity to really see and get an opportunity using the MESA organization to help drive value for the manufacturing community on a whole globally. And as you saw Mike's slide before, a lot of those organizations that I've been involved directly in a lot of the conversations with those organizations, and great partnerships and opportunities that we can bring to the industry on a whole. If you would move to the next slide for a second, please. Thanks. Bottom line, though, for me, is that MESA has really established itself as the independent voice for manufacturing across the globe. As I'm saying now, we've watched this change in the last few years. We continue to build on our core strengths. It's a community of practitioners and consultants and consortiums and companies, right? All coming together, focusing on expanding knowledge, best practices, and really driving value from an information technology perspective for manufacturing. We've had both growth in our Keystone membership this year, as well as in our manufacturer producer companies joining the organization. Some other big activities that are going on really around. We launched this smart manufacturing community. I'm hoping that many of you are able to join and participate. And this is even a community that's available to non-members. But a great opportunity. There are actually 5 groups within that smart manufacturing community, all looking at industry best practices and processes, and really trying to advance, provide info and case studies and so on to advance the industry as a whole. So a great way to get involved, put a plug in for them, and again, pick one of the topics that's of interest to you, and certainly jump in and provide your input. We've also, at MESA is our big focus really is on education. We've had for many years a global education program. This year, we launched our first online coursework, and there's plans for many more to come. Again, I'm sure some of this will be spoken about later on, but there's opportunities here, again, as we take this training course online for people to be able to take advantage of the MESA knowledge, basically at their own pace, in their own way. Another thing that I'm very excited about is this year we've also authorized, that the International Board has authorized the creation of a new group to focus on a smart manufacturing technology framework. One of the things in my discussions around, as I've been going around this last year, companies are looking for help in trying to figure out, how do I get on this journey, right? How do I build a roadmap for myself? And that makes sense. They hear a lot of hype and a lot of the nice shiny objects that are out there, but they're not sure how to build a strategic plan for themselves to take advantage of it. This group, we hired or authorized a new position, the Executive Vice President of Manufacturing Transformation, to kind of lead the development of this framework, and an education work around it, and some tools to help build that framework. Help to build that roadmap for companies. So many look forward to a lot of stuff coming out of that group in the next year to help companies as well. Another thing I'm excited about is this partnership that we created this past year with WeConnect, and many of you may know in North America, typically we have a MESA conference in partnership with Industry Week. Typically, Industry Week's Best Plants conference will be there as sponsors and participate once a year. WeConnect has actually globally, but regional events that we've now partnered up with them. Over the past year, we've participated in events and helped them lead events in San Diego, Berlin, I want to say Orlando and Singapore. So it's a great way for us to get our voices into the regions and connect with our members and the industry as a whole across the globe. So another way that we're connecting globally. And then lastly, and Mike mentioned about the engagement with governmental bodies, and again, a lot of work this year in bringing to these organizations that are trying to again advance the manufacturing capability, and where we can bring a lot of real world practitioners to the discussions that are happening in those groups. So again, another great opportunity for MESA to be seen on the forefront, and they're coming to us asking us to help them educate and advance the capabilities in the industry. So really excited about how MESA has evolved over the years that I've been engaged with it, and really enjoyed my tenure here as the chairman. This will be it's typically a 2-year term, and I guess as I reflect back on it, this is the end of my 2 years, and really proud of the organization and the people, and again, because it's really made up of this mass of people that are really interested in sharing and sharing their knowledge, learning from others. I really love the community of it all, and I think it's a great organization. If you're really looking to help or learn, please connect in with us. And again, on behalf of the International Board of Directors, I want to thank you for taking the time. And if there's ever any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. And Michael, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Certainly appreciate Eric's perspective as a engaged manufacturer and the voice that he can bring. He's talked about the election cycles. Just a note, I will not in public here try to talk him into running for a second term, but we'll let you all know that you'll see some communications coming out shortly about board elections and opportunities to nominate people to be part of our leadership group that'll be coming out in the beginning of the new year. So like to switch now to the chairman of our Americas board, Brad Rowan is the chairman from Cargill. Brad, if you could take it away.
All right. Hey, thank you, Mike. Hello and welcome to everyone on behalf of the Americas board. My name is Brad Rowan. I'm the chair of the Americas board. As Mike mentioned, in my day job, I work for Cargill. I lead the manufacturing operations management in Cargill with the objective of modernizing Cargill's 1,500 plus plants across the globe throughout our 4 business divisions, which is easily a 10 to 15 journey across the whole company as we go through it. What's important to note there is that Cargill has been involved with MESA for over 5 years, and to help us get started on that journey, we have certainly leveraged the MESA content and education program to help us get started, as well as to continue to accelerate on our journey through the smart manufacturing process. I myself have been on the board for the last 3 years, representing Cargill's manufacturer's point of view and engaging the industry experts on how to help move us all forward down the smart manufacturing path. So in that regard, I'm really excited to share a few words about the Americas board and what we're working on in 2019. Next slide, please. So the objective of the Americas board is to advance the mission and strategy set forth by the International Board into the Americas region. This is consistent with the direction of the previous years as we develop content and engage the objectives addressing topics that are relevant to the Americas industry's concerns. As you can see on the slide there, the 2019 America Board is made up of a diverse mix of thought leaders from the industry, manufacturers, solution providers, and integration community, as well as independent consultants that help us drive a diverse thought leadership through smart manufacturing topics. It also gives us a broad and rich base of experiences to draw from when setting out the themes and objectives for our engagements within the industry and current and future MESA members. Lastly, the Americas Board is deeply engaged in support of many of the MESA technical committees, working groups with a passion about what MESA does, with key contributions into our education, membership, and marketing committees. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Go ahead and run the animation, that's fine. So our key focus areas for the next 12 months is to continue down the journey of demystifying smart manufacturing in the broadest context, with a specific focus on how to get started, leveraging experiences from companies who are already on their way in the journey, and recognizing the need to visualize frameworks and roadmaps for the steps that companies need to take along the way, as well as bring together a community of smart manufacturing thinkers, promoting a workshop-style collaboration and discussion. In 2019, we'll look to engage in several industry events that will help us reach a broader audience consistently throughout the year. We'll continue to have a strong presence in the Industry Week this year, which has been the event where MESA has had their traditional conference, at the Manufacturing and Technology Conference in Pittsburgh in April 1st through the 3rd. We will also start being more present throughout the region, connecting with the We Connect events, which occur throughout the calendar in different parts of the United States. And this will enable us to focus more on 3 areas that the board has decided to direct our activities to. So regional focus, leveraging more events, being more present and visible across the different regions of the Americas. Start looking at engaging small and medium manufacturers, as well as continue to engage in the larger manufacturing community, which has been our traditional focus. And also start outreach to engage more non-traditionally focused groups to provide diversity and thought into our membership and into our thinking process. Those types of groups would include women-led and minority companies, reach out to students, etc. And lastly, we'll continue to promote and support the global education program and the evolution of the smart manufacturing content as we see fit for the Americas industry. Next slide, please. So the question on the table is how to get involved. Really a call to action here to be visible, participate, and engage in the discussions that we have throughout the year. We endeavor to be your one-stop shop for the MESA community and the place to be when you start or continue down your smart manufacturing journey, whether you're a small, medium, or large manufacturer. Engage in our global education program. The content continues to evolve and grow with a lot of the new thinking that's coming in the industry through our committees. Encourage all MESA members to engage in education in some shape or form. What we found is just taking the first steps and getting started to be informed and educated actually opens a lot of doors on the direction companies need to take as they go down their smart manufacturing journey. And even please engage us, get involved in our working groups, expand your network, be a part of the thinking process as it evolves over the next 12 months. Mike, back to you.
Excellent, Brad. I appreciate that very much. And again, I mean, I think the efforts of the Americas Board, we're getting more solid on our feet on how we actually engage and how we are effective at executing. So appreciate everything you're doing there from a leadership perspective to help us drive that and add your voice to the leadership ranks at MESA. So we will switch now and talk with our newest board leader, Prabhakar Selvam, as the chairman of our Asia Pacific board. And so I will turn the conversation over to you, Prabhakar.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Good morning to everyone. As Mike mentioned, we are a very new board, just completed 1 year. Let me share with you what we have been doing in 2018 and also what's our plan for 2019. Next slide, please. We have 6 board members at this time, planning to add a few more members early next year from Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, India, all these Asia Pacific countries. In May 2018, we have created Philippines SIG. That is our first special interest group in the region, with the initiative of Industry 4.0 Smart Manufacturing Roadmap. We have around 10 members here, meeting regularly every month to achieve our goal of creating an Industry 4.0 roadmap PowerPoint slides based on the available MESA materials. And what we are planning after we create this material, PowerPoint slides, we are planning to present it in to the manufacturers in the Philippines. We are targeting sometime March 29 to present this. This also this is where we like to introduce MESA to a lot of manufacturers in the Philippines. It's a great opportunity to introduce MESA in the Philippines and during this presentation of this material that we are working on it. Also recently, India SIG with the initiative of Industry 4.0 aligned MES has been approved. We are planning to kick off this activity by January 29. Similarly, Singapore SIG on OE study group also approved this year, and we are planning to kick off the activity by January 2019 as well. Next slide, please. On top of that, we are also creating new SIGs in Thailand, Malaysia, and Australia, and looking at other countries as well in Asia Pacific. Planning to have booth in Philippines Semiconductor and Electronics event in 2019, June 2019. This is one of the major events in the Philippines, particularly in Semiconductor Electronics event. We have already reserved a slot for this event. Also, in Singapore's Singapore Manufacturing Federation organizes this MESA 2019 event. We are planning to join as well. On top of that, we would also join V.Connect event as well in Singapore. That's going to be in July. Also, we are looking at events, manufacturing events in India, Thailand, Malaysia as well. We are looking at the right events as well to participate in 2019. These are all the activities we are looking at in 2019 for MESA Asia Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhakar.
Thank you very much.
As with the others, appreciate your leadership. And maybe just a couple of points here for the audience. First of all, if you have questions, please use the question panel in your control panel to pose them, so we can respond to those as a group. And then I guess thematically, what you're hearing, what you're seeing with the regional groups is how much effort is underway to reach as far as we can from a global scale perspective, and draw people into the conversation. So that's a theme that you will continue or hear continue when we have our EMEA board chairman join us. But before we do that, we're going to have our treasurer, Jimmy Asher, come on and go through a financial review of 2018 and what we're planning for 2019. So, Jimmy, can you take it away?
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, Mike. Yep. Next slide, please. So I'm Jimmy Asher. I'm the treasurer of MESA. The nice thing about my position is I get to touch many facets of the organization itself, providing kind of a breakdown of various different income. You can see on the left-hand side, you can see largely the source of our income is primarily inside of membership. This also includes the sponsorship that Mike touched on at the top of the hour with our Keystone members. A couple of other sources are influence or usage rights from the CESME, the Clean Energy and Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute, as well as our instructor-led education program. And then looking at the expense line items, you could see that nearly 30% of MESA's budget, it goes towards education programs to enrich the community. Those are primarily in this graph, being year-to-date instructor-led, but we're also doing work on online, and I'll talk about that in a moment. You can see that about 44% is operational expense. That expense helps cover various different working groups within inside of MESA and the support that the organization needs for that body of work. And then the other line share, about 16%, is marketing or promotion to do various different events and outreach. Looking at the bottom, you can kind of get a snapshot of our budget that we prepared for 2018. Next slide, please. Talking about the 2018 budget, you could see that there was an additional investment of roughly $200K that we earmarked over and above the traditional operational expense of the organization. Primarily, those went in two facets. Education, a lot of work that we have planned has been executed inside the organization. So that was the procurement and setup of a learning management system, or an LMS, for the online coursing and tracking. In that vein, we've launched our first online course, the ROI and Justification of Smart Manufacturing, and that's available for you to register today. And then we've got an additional 8 to 12 training modules planned for 2019. The other additional spend of that earmarked monies was for marketing activity, and largely went to marketing and automation infrastructure. So some processes there were the tools to give us the traceability and tracking as members join the organization, using a tool called Salesforce.com for CRM, and to do lead nurturing. We also formed the Integrated Marketing Playbook, which was an updated processes for developing campaigns, promotion, social networking, and hosting events, which gives us great reuse inside of those activities. Looking at the year-to-date activities, from a financial health perspective, we have a stable sponsorship of the Keystone members, but we're seeing a slower uptake for the regional working group sponsorships that we earmarked. Those are net new sponsorship activities for the organization this year. We also see slowed support for manufactured solution providers. We had forecasted an increase relative to last year, and we're about consistent levels for the year prior. Our GEP, again, we've been doing instructor-led courses around the world. 12 certificate programs have been introduced thus far, and the initial development of those online courses, we are now seeing the realization of the memberships, which was delayed slightly from that being a net new initiative inside of the organization. From a financial health perspective, we are gearing up for 2019 budget and the preparations there and forecasting, and then we'll continue to monitor the revenue and spend. With that, I'll hand it back over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. Appreciate everything you do from the financials perspective, and keeping us on track from that perspective. And I think for anybody that's on the line, certainly any questions about the financials, we're certainly willing to discuss in any level of depth anybody's interested in, but not something we want to go into terrible depth here as a broad group. So Jimmy's conversation is pretty high level. And but we are certainly willing to address questions if anybody has them. So we'll give contact information at the end of this presentation as well, how to reach out. But again, just want to remind you that if you have questions currently, go ahead and put them into the chat window, or I'm sorry, into the questions window. So we're now switching over to the chairman of our EMEA board of directors, Uwe Kuipers. And one of the beauties of MESA is that we're a volunteer organization. So Uva is stepping off of a plane somewhere in the world and supposed to be tied in here by phone. So I will turn it over to Uva. Are you with us now?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for the introduction. So welcome everyone, and great listening to the other participants, and I welcome specifically the EMEA members of MESA. I've been a long-term MESA member as well, and it's really a pleasure driving the EMEA board here with all my colleagues in the EMEA board contributing regular on our monthly calls and regular activities. So if we start with the EMEA board review, so what was the targets we had in 2018? As EMEA is a region, as you can imagine, with a lot of language difference and also cultural difference, we also try to really drive more in the local groups. And one of the targets we had was getting Italy added into what we call the special interest groups, which is really focusing on the targets in the different regions. We have started the initiatives and really drove in there. So also seek for more industry events, as mentioned by the American board already. The real goal is get us known in the different regions, therefore working with the different event partners as well and continuing driving events. Additional to that, we were focusing on signing up new manufacturing and sponsor members and promoting, as already said, our GEP, specifically on the online calls we have started there, and also seeing the positioning of MES in context of local industry initiatives like Industry 4.0 or other regional activities in there. And there also the point we wanted to focus on this year is that all the regional activities we're doing coming back into the EMEA board and being distributed so that the different regions can participate and use the advantage of what has worked good in the different regions, getting the knowledge, which is then also feed it back into the technical committees. So if we go to the next slide, then the question is, how do we do it and how did we work in there? We were facilitating, holding and promoting MESA in different countries, local regions, by best practice sharing, working on the MESA content, so giving input as well to the technical groups, and as mentioned, really collaborating between the special interest groups on the board level there as well. We also came back to driving face-to-face board meetings, because as we're spread around all the regions, it's difficult to come together, but we have identified an event where most of us are participating and therefore using that as well as a face-to-face board meeting event. And also then participating in industry events by providing content, by sharing the knowledge and seeing what really drives companies in the digital transformation, and therefore also promote the GEP. And we also have been partnering already for a long time with the Club MES in France. They actually been of our board as well, and have each board members focusing on having more training internally within their companies as well as external. So what did we accomplish in 2018 is what we see in the next slide. The ARC forum, so we team up with ARC, which is having a regular forum in the beginning of the year. The last 2 years they did that near Barcelona, and that's where we also then hold our board meeting, face-to-face board meeting, that we really partner strongly up together with them and drive the agenda with them to really add value into that and give every participant more value into the whole part. We already heard about WeConnect, so I'm not going too much in detail there, but also there a great workshop was done. And the picture you see on the slide is from the European Manufacturing Summit, which happened actually in November, so last month. And also there, we are a long-term partner already for the second year in a row now, or third year actually, second year now. We have something what is called a MESA village, so where other MESA members are actually participating in that village. So what you see here is one MESA member next to the MESA booth, who's also highlighting that he is a MESA member. So every kind of event we're participating, like also the Connected Smart Manufacturing Leader Summit. So a lot of activities, we're speaking on event, making us available. And we have started, as said, with the special interest group in Italy, and also relaunched the activities in the Benelux, where we had the first board meeting, an election of the SIG board happening. So therefore, I'm really foreseeing that for 2019, there's much more proactive activities. We then have the special interest group in Germany, Austria, France, Ireland, held, and UK actually as well, forgot there to be held on a regular basis. And outstanding, I must say, is always Middle East and Africa. They are very active and very great participants. And if we take the Africans, for example, we've done arrangements there that in their yearly meeting they have with over 150 people, the best speaker who is selected there with the best knowledge and the best sharing of experience is then being invited to the ARC event in Barcelona. So that's really a goal for the South African special interest group to really participate actively into their sharing the best practice, and then being honored if you've been selected by the South African board and by the members that this was the best speak, sharing the best practice, that this then is being held in the ARC forum. So you see there's a lot of activities happening, and therefore if we go to the next slide, I will go in what is the goal we have for 2019. It's actually not the Benelux, because there we need to be very careful. The French speaking part of in the Benelux is more working towards the club MES. So we are really focusing on the Dutch speaking or Flemish speaking part of the Benelux. As I said, SIG Italy is getting active, and last year we even started the discussion of this year we started the discussion on getting Spain started. So that really helps us moving forward. We want to increase the visibility of industry events we do, and sign up new members and sponsorships, and then promoting our education program stronger, and seeing a stronger engagement on the EMEA level and the EMEA board to provide more cross-regional leverage of each individual SIG activity. So from a last perspective there, the call to action we have is basically get engaged with us on the local group, get on the internet, see who is your contact person, so that we're really being able of driving that with you. Tell us what you like to meet in your region, in your language, so that we can drive the special interest group and support you in that way, driving you in this direction. And when you want to us being an event partner, happy to discuss with you. And when you need MES training as well, or global education training from us in the local language, that's also be possible. So reach out to us, become an active member, and have in mind only the activity you're putting in is what you get out as well. And there's a lot of value already in there where people already participate in there. With that, I wish you all a very nice Christmas, and give it back to Mike.
Excellent, Uwe. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I guess a couple of things here. As we mentioned, they're looking for questions through the Q&A. I'm getting some offline chat here that there are some questions that I'm not seeing, which is a challenge considering I'm the moderator. So let me try to track those down. In the meantime, while I do, as I mentioned earlier, that there's contact information here for me and for Brandy Richardson, our executive director. And so if you have any questions now or at any point, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us, and we can certainly respond to your questions. I think that thematically, when you talk about what we covered here, what you heard a lot about coming from the regional boards is how involved people are on a global scale, how many special interest groups, and if you're not familiar, special interest group is the term we use for folks that are meeting on a regional basis. And you saw just a number of groups that are active or getting active or starting to get active in different regions, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue, and that as the regional board leaders talked about, essentially the work there is to represent the regions and make sure that the regional voices are heard throughout the entire organization. That impacts the content focus and deliverables and activities that the international board prioritizes. And so I think that it's a sign of strength of how many special interest groups we have going on, how many folks are leveraging the MESA umbrella to get together underneath and have conversations that are important to industry. I am able to see the questions now, so I apologize for that. There is actually a question about does MESA have presence in Latin America? And we do not have any formal board structure. Well, I'm sorry, we have the formal board structure. So the Americas board is structured to cover the to the Latin American region. We have no active special interest groups at this time. And typically the way that happens for us is we find interested parties that are in a region that are willing to lead and provide the leadership in a region to draw in people and then we can basically step through the resources that we have available to enable events and conversations and the proper operating rhythm and things like that. So if whoever's asking the question, if there's an interest from that perspective, we can certainly have continued conversations with you offline to talk about how to engage you or how to try to get a broader group of people together and support those activities. So, Brad, as this falls under the Americas, is there anything that you wanted to add or state?
Yes, thanks, Mike. So from the Americas board standpoint, we're very interested to bring in thought leaders from the Latin American region. We don't have a strong presence there today, but I see that's a natural area that we can leverage into. One of the visions that I have at a very high level from the Americas board is to have more regional special interest groups along the lines of what we've heard in both the EMEA board and the APAC board. So I'm very interested for those who would like to get more engaged to reach out to us, and let's get the discussion started about how we can help you guys get access to the MESA content, get manufacturers, solution providers down in the regions aligned in access to the content, to the activities that we're doing in MESA, and help spread down into the Latin American region. So very excited to get that started.
Excellent. And I would recommend, just to piggyback on that, Brad, send an email to either me or to Brandy, and we'll make that connection to Brad and the team and pick up those conversations. Brad, since you're still on the line, if you don't mind, there was a question about, I think, less about your leadership as the Americas board chair and more about you as a manufacturer and the value. The question is, how has the MESA membership helped you bridge the IT/OT divide in your business? Is that something that you're able to talk to at a high level?
I can say a few words on that, and I think that's an outstanding question. So what the MESA membership, and actually more than that, interacting with the MESA community has really helped Cargill do is understand and demystify what we mean by IT/OT, and put that into the context of what it means for a company as big and diverse as Cargill. There's a lot of different industry names, terms, threads out there. We have a lot of different groups that Cargill's engaged with, and what we really needed was kind of an unbiased, from a solution standpoint, framework with which we could use leveraging industry standards to start having a common dialogue within Cargill. So that membership and the access to the thought leadership in MESA has really helped us solidify a framework that we can move forward on, give us an idea of how big the challenge is ahead of a company like Cargill, and also has helped us provide some common language between the IT way of thinking and the OT way of thinking on the engineering side. I can tell you, before we got some structure around that, the discussion was really going in circles and very hard to find common ground and topics that we could leverage on. The other thing that MESA has helped us through their global education program is to get those concepts and knowledge out to the broader community inside of Cargill. So not only our functional leadership, but also our enterprise business group leadership help point us all in a common direction that leads us down the journey, not only to get started, but accelerate through our path there. I hope that's answered the question, but it's been very helpful for Cargill to get organized to move in a common direction.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate that, Brad. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, Eric Nistet, our international chairman, had to drop off, but I think he would echo the response that Brad gave as far as the value of being part of MESA for his organization. So that's great feedback, Brad. So we're almost out of time here, and there's only one other question that I see here, and so I'm going to ask all of the regional, Jimmy and the regional leaders, to maybe think here for a second. There's one issue I want to address, and while I do that, if you could just think if there's any parting thoughts that you want to make or calls to action or anything for the group as we wrap up here. The main thing I want to go back to and touch on is I had referenced at the beginning of the meeting about new types of sponsors that we have started to engage this year, and showing Dassault Systems and IQMS as working group sponsors. We actually did not touch on those new sponsorships throughout the course of the meeting, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about that. We introduced two new types of sponsorship options for MESA this last year. One is a working group sponsorship, and that allows groups that are specifically focused in areas where MESA has active working groups to have a more focused sponsorship into that particular content area. So smart manufacturing obviously being one. We have other groups with analytics and asset performance management and continuous process industry groups. There are a number of specific working groups that we have, and we're starting to see people show interest in providing ways for them to be engaged, bring their expertise into the community without being the global sponsor that our keystones are. The other way to get involved in that way is as a regional sponsor. So we now have a regional sponsorship option where if there's an organization that may want to be active in any of the regions that we've been talking about here today and working with the individuals that are on the line with us today, we have that option, again, to be more focused and draw more thought leaders and more domain experts into the MESA community through that way. And those are options that we didn't have in years going past. So I just wanted to touch on that point right now, and we have just 5 minutes left. So if I could go around and just ask if our regional leaders and Jimmy have any closing thoughts that they would like to add. So Brad, could I just start with you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So what comes to mind from not only the position of the board of the Americas board, but also chairman of the board, but also from a Cargill standpoint, is I think what's important is to be prepared to get started on the journey. MESA is a very, very safe place to share your ideas and your thoughts and where you're at, as we're not promoting a specific solution. and the content and the answers and the experts that will help you along that way will really solidify a roadmap that folks can take as they go down their journey. So really encourage you to engage, be present with MESA, the workshops, the events that we're running, and be prepared to start finding some structure in place that gets you along the journey. So really excited to have a diverse thought group in the Americas area. So look forward to as many people joining in and being a part of that as possible. Yep, thanks, Mike.
Excellent. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Prabhakar, how about you? Are you able to?
Yeah, I'm okay. Not much. It's fine. Yeah. Great.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No. It's okay. I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Jimmy, how about you? I know you're not a regional leader, but from your position as one of the officers of the organization, is there any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
Just to reiterate, MESA is a safe harbor to have learning discussions relative to MES, smart manufacturing, and all the topics that talk about convergence. The nice thing I like about MESA is there's a wealth of information in the resource library, as well as instructional content to help you start down that path, as Brad said. So that's all from my perspective.
Excellent. I agree with all of that as well. So thank you. And Uwe, are you still with us? No, you're only on by the phone.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I think as I'm speaking of quite a bit of events, what I'm always seeing there, and that's basically what Brett was reflecting as well, is we see a lot of momentum happening. People are wandering and going to these events as well, and to our discussions and special interest group forums as well, because a lot of them are still struggling. Where do I start and how do I begin my journey, and what is the best way to get started and see results? And therefore, I just can tell you, I mean, MESA is a great place with the documentations we have, with the vision paper and white papers we have, to give you a foundation, give you a neutral perspective of a lot of experts which have started, thought leaders which have done something. So you get a piece where you can start, and then getting engaged with us to really understand and share your challenges you have as well as your experience, and share that with thought leader experts within our team.
Excellent. Excellent. We appreciate that. But and there's a term that we use, nothing formally. It's just sort of an internal phrase we use once in a while. We talk about members win when members contribute. Right? And I think that it's evident by the members that are represented here on the line today, and the contributions that they make, the contributions that they represent with all of the groups that are working globally to engage, and it's an opportunity again, I think, for all members to engage. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for being here with us today, for your contributions to MESA, and just wish everybody happy holidays, great end of 2018, and a wonderful and prosperous 2019. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.